welcome to Cooking with Robyn. We're making chocolate raviolis today, which would be perfect for St. Valentine's Day. We're going to start with our filling. We're going to take the cream cheese that is at room temperature, and we're going to add some sugar to it and mix it up, and then we're going to put it back in the fridge so it can set back up. Because when we put it in our filling for our raviolis, we want it hard. We don't want it soft because we want it to hold its shape, and then the raviolis can just form right around it. And 2 tablespoons of white sugar. Now we're just going to leave that up on the side like that because that will make it cool down a little faster instead of it in one big lump. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the fridge, and I'll be right back. All right, now let's start on our chocolate raviolis. First off, we're having 2 cups of white flour. And these are 2 different sifters that I have, and I also have the old-fashioned one where you just crank it like that. But we're going to start with 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So we're going to do 1 cup, and then we're going to put 3/4 cups of cocoa. Now today I'm using the regular cocoa, or you could use Special Dark. I have done both, and they're both pretty good. Okay, when you measure cocoa, you just kind of spoon it in. You just kind of spoon it in. You don't want to pat it down. You don't want to shake it. You don't want to get in like that, and because you're going to get more than you want. So when you measure cocoa, you just kind of spoon it in. There we go. And then we're going to put that on top. Boy, making a mess with this cocoa, huh? All right, I'm just going to stick that back up there. And then we're going to put another cup of flour in here. I'm going to try to scoop up the cocoa that I put in my flour. Oh, messy cook's a good cook. There we go. All right. And then we're going to add the powdered sugar. 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar is what we're looking for. 1, 2. Now you do not want to substitute this with granulated sugar or brown sugar. You want the powdered sugar because that's going to sift it all together. Can you see how that's coming through? And this is making a really nice mixture. You might want to break up some of those clumps. And we do not add any salt to this recipe either. There's no salt to this recipe. It's all sweet. There we go. So that did its job. Okay, I'll set this off to the side. I'm going to put a little gloves on because this cocoa does get really messy. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to crack this because we want this yolk from this egg, and we're going to use the egg white for the to seal our raviolis together. So we're just going to separate this, put it off to the side. There we go. Put that up there. All right, and we're going to add our tablespoon of oil. Can it be olive oil? Absolutely. I'm just using vegetable oil right now. There we go. Now, also too, I wanted to show, I brought along, this is a shout out to Cave Creek Olive Oil Company, and they have infused olive oils. You can look them up on the internet. They're probably, I don't know, maybe a 20, 30-minute drive maybe from here. And this one is wild mushroom and sage. And this is a black truffle olive oil. And instead of, if you're making just regular pasta, instead of adding just regular vegetable oil, you can use infused oils, and that will give it a little bit higher level of just a little bit of taste there. Okay, so we want to mix this up. But of course, we're not going to use that for our chocolate raviolis today. Okay, now we're going to do a little well. Just going to mix this up just a little bit more. We don't want marbled raviolis. The sifting is pretty much to make sure that there's no lumps in the powdered sugar, the flour, and then, yeah, this is good. So we just want a little well. Doesn't matter if you can still see the board. Now, this cutting board that I have is an IKEA cutting board, and it has a little lip on here that comes down. So when I'm kneading this and pushing it this way, the board's not going to move back and forth. There we go. Just going to stick that in there. And then we're just going to kind of go around and incorporate the flour and cocoa mixture in here. Now, we're not going to use all of this flour and cocoa because you always have to have a little bit more than enough, more than what you need, because it just depends on how dry your flour is to how much it's going to work in. It smells really good. You can smell the chocolate. Now these you can make ahead, and because they can be served, you can have them cold or you can have them fresh out of the boiling water. But you can make these ahead and up to cooking them, because they're only going to boil in the water a couple minutes, because fresh pasta doesn't take as long as your store-bought pasta. Okay, now you can see how this has come together. Whoops. And then we're just kind of folding that in. We want to get it off the board. There we go. You can't really overwork pasta, so don't worry about it. It's only going to take in so much of the flour mixture, and you can see that it's coming together. This bench scraper is amazing because what it's doing is getting all of this off and incorporating it back into my pasta. Okay, so we don't need that anymore. So we just kind of want to turn it a quarter and fold it in on itself. Now you should get a good maybe 24 pieces of pasta out of this. Just really depends on how thin you roll it or how thick you roll it. The thinner it is, the more that you're going to get out of it. But you don't want it too thin that it's going to break your filling's going to break when you boil them. Okay, you can see that's kind of good. Yeah, see? You want to try to wear gloves with this because you will have it. The cocoa will stain a little bit your hands. And then it looked like you've been gardening. Okay, this looks like it's pretty much. It's not sticky really onto itself anymore. Now what we're going to do after we incorporate the flour in here, we're going to put this in the fridge for about an hour because you want the flour to soak up those water molecules. And the same with pie crust. Whenever you're making a pie, before you roll it out, you want to put it in the fridge for a few minutes. Yeah, I would say at least 30 minutes to an hour. And you can even make that up the day before. And this dough can sit in your refrigerator up to 10 days because it has fresh eggs in it. Anytime you make anything with fresh eggs, 10 days is the limit. Okay, so I'm going to push this up. And I'm going to knead it a few more times. All right. See how the flour is incorporated in there? You just want to eat it. It smells like a candy bar. There we go. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the refrigerator for an hour. And we'll see you in just a little bit. Okay, now that our dough has rested for an hour in the fridge, I just want to show you a few of these ravioli makers here. What we have here, these are press ones, and you can see that they're different sizes depending on what type of ravioli you'd like. And this is a Pampered Chef one, which cuts it and seals it at the same time. So what you would do with this one, I'll show you that after I get it rolled out. This one is actually from Russia, and it's a good thing that you get pictures with it because I don't read Russian. And this is really handy, and you get a lot of little ones really quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this one. This is the perfect size for our chocolate ravioli. And it comes with its own little rolling pin because we're going to roll it over when we're ready to cut the raviolis. Also too, what you could do is after you get them all cut, you get them all rolled out, you could just use a pizza cutter and just cut your squares. So you don't really need any extra equipment to make these raviolis. All right, now what we want to do is we want to cut this into fours. So we're just gonna, kind of, doesn't have to be exact, but really close. You want it really close. So we're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cover these up, set them off to the side. And I'm going to start my water, my pasta water, so it's boiling when we get done with. There it goes. Okay. Coming from the fridge, it is a little harder to work with, but okay. So this is the flour mixture that I took off the cutting board. So we just want to put a little bit on there. And I did it through a little sieve because I don't want because there's still some little egg mixtures and stuff in there that we don't want. Okay, we want to make sure that it's wide enough to fit on our form. So it's going to stretch out just a little bit more. And you want just enough of the flour mixture so it's not going to stick to your rolling pin. All right, so we're almost there. Now the trick with pasta is if you let it rest for a few minutes, because when you roll it out, it keeps shrinking and then it shrinks. But if you let it rest for a few minutes, and we're gonna roll this one out and we'll come back and it's gonna roll out a little bit easier. All right, I'm just gonna set this to the side so it can rest, and then I'm gonna start on this one. Again. And if you start with a rectangle instead of a circle, it's gonna roll out more like a rectangle. Just kind of stretch it with your hands. It's almost like fudge. Feels like fudge. Now, when you're working with a mold, you want the bottom one to be a little bit more larger than the top one, because the bottom one has to stretch down into all the crevices. Now sometimes you don't roll it out big enough, so you might only get maybe 11 or 10 instead of the 12. But if you just put it on the board like this, and you put your dollops like every 2 inches, and then you put your one on top, and then you just use your pizza cutter, and that way you always have that. Okay, we don't want to stretch it down in. We want to kind of lift it up so it goes down in there. All right, let me get my cream cheese mixture out of the refrigerator. There we go, it's nice and cold. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of it and we're going to put it in the hole. We want to fill it, try to fill it so it's just a little bit above the top, because it's still going to push down into the mold just a little bit when we put the top on. But we want to make sure that we stay away from the sides and the center. We don't want to get anything, because that's going to prevent it from sealing. All right, now that we have all of ours filled up, we're going to put a chocolate chip in each one. And what that's going to do, it's going to give you a little burst of chocolate in there. I did these with and without the chocolate chips, and it just added a little extra something to it. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take our egg wash, kind of break up that white a little bit. There we go, and we're just going to brush all the way around all this filling. This top. Oh, yeah, there we are. Now, once you set it down, you're just kind of stuck. Can't really pick it back up again because that has the egg white on it. There we go. So I'm just gonna kind of push down on the filling, where the filling is. And then I'm gonna start in the middle. Might have filled them a little too full. I'm gonna start in the middle, and I went out towards one side, kind of getting the air bubbles out. There we go. There we go. You want to try to make sure that they're sealed. Have a good seal on them. I hope you got that out. All right, that looks like we got a pretty good seal on it. There we go. Just kind of gently pull them apart. Look how cute these are. If you see any that's not quite, you can just kind of pinch them closed. There we go. I've made these quite a few times, and kids love them because they're like, what? Chocolate pasta? Okay. We got our water boiling. Probably want to boil them probably at least a good 3 minutes. Now we don't have to worry about cooking them or worrying about the filling or anything, because the filling is going to be hot enough. It doesn't have an egg in it or anything. So, and you can eat cream cheese cold or hot. So it doesn't really matter. You know, you want it at least at like a room temperature, but boiling for 2 to 3 minutes, the filling is going to be nice and a good temperature. Okay, so we boiled these for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And we're just gonna set them here so they can just dry off a minute. We don't want to run them under water or anything. We're not worried about them sticking together, or we don't want to cool them down. Look at that. We didn't lose any. None of our fillings busted open. It's a good day. Yeah, you just got to make sure that, you know, they're sealed. Now we're going to make our drizzle. You can take any flavored preserve that you want. The cream cheese isn't flavored at all. So you can have peach preserve, you can have a blueberry, strawberries vary, you could do apricot, any type of jelly or jam. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on so it's kind of like on a low, because we don't want to burn it. And we're just going to add in here, the recipe says, I believe it says a cup. But you add in, and you can always add more. You can always add more. So we're just going to melt this down. We're going to melt this, and I have a strawberry preserve today, is what I'm using. Raspberry is a good choice too. Yeah, it doesn't take long to melt this down. All right, we don't want this to boil. We just want it to, you know, simmer it just for a minute. And there might be lumps still in here because depending on if your strawberry preserves has pieces of strawberry in it. And mine does. I believe these are strawberries. So mine's not going to melt down anymore. And that's what you want. I think the recipe says 3 to 5 minutes, but I don't have a full, you know, amount of the recipe in here for demonstrational purposes. So, but if I wanted more, I could just melt a little bit more down. All right. I'm going to turn this off now and let this sit just a few minutes. All right, our pasta has cooled, so let's put some on a plate. Now, I didn't put any oil or anything in the boiling water either because I'm not really worried about the fresh pasta sticking to itself. There we go. All right, let's take some of our sauce that's cooled down a little bit. And if your pasta takes you just a little bit longer than what you think it might take you, you can always reheat this again. You just want to put just enough on, drizzle a little bit over so we can taste the strawberries. Ooh, I can smell the strawberries real good. All right. Look at this. Smells so good. I'm going to cut open in this and I'm going to taste it. There we go. Look at that center. Look at that center we got there. I don't know if you can see our, oh, that's our melted chocolate chip right there. It looks like there's no filling right there, but that's our melted chocolate chip. Yum. All right, I'm just going to slice this again. There you can see our melted chocolate chip. I'm going to let you guys go now because I'm just going to go ahead and eat the rest of this plate. Thank you for coming today, and I hope you enjoyed it.